Before we dive in, if you love dark, twisted crimes that make your skin crawl, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment below. Because once you hear this, you won't forget it. It started on a cold, gray morning in Westchester County, New York. The kind of morning where the fog clings to the asphalt, and every step feels like it's echoing in someone else's story. Detective Marcus Reed had just arrived at the Westchester Correctional Facility when the call came in. "We've got a situation. Cell 42, maximum security block. You need to see this." Reed didn't know it yet, but what awaited him inside that cell would pull him into a case unlike any he'd ever seen. A crime so meticulous it blurred the line between inmate and executioner. Cell 42 belonged to Jonathan "Johnny" Mercer, a 32-year-old serving a 25-year sentence for armed robbery. Mercer wasn't a model inmate, but he wasn't a killer, or at least that was what the record said. But when the guards found him, he was slumped against a cold concrete wall, eyes wide, mouth frozen mid-scream, blood pooling beneath him. The first thing Reed noticed was how clean it all looked. No signs of struggle. No weapon. The crime scene was too perfect. And then in the corner, a small, almost imperceptible piece of paper was pinned to the wall in nail. Just 3 words, scrawled in tight, jagged handwriting. "He knows everything." The detectives got twisted. Whoever had done this knew how to send a message. And the message wasn't just for Mercer. It was for everyone who walked those prison halls. Reed's first task was to speak to the guards. Lieutenant Harris, a grizzled veteran with 20 years inside the system, looked pale. "I've never seen anything like it, Marcus," he admitted. No signs of entry. Mercer's cell was locked from the inside. And the cameras, they went dark for exactly 7 minutes. Not a second more, not a second less. Reed's mind raced. No forced entry. No witnesses, a note taunting them. It was almost theatrical, like the killer wanted to be noticed. But why Mercer? And what did he know? The investigation led Reed to interview Mercer's fellow inmates. Some claimed he had been nervous for weeks, pacing the cell like a caged animal, whispering to himself in the dead hours of the night. Others said Mercer had been asking questions, dangerous questions, about the guards, about secret deals, about someone high up in the prison who was cleaning up mistakes. Then came the discovery that changed everything. A maintenance worker, crawling through the ventilation system, found a hidden compartment in the wall of Mercer's cell. Inside were dozens of letters written in code, addressed to a name no one recognized. A.S., the letters detailed illegal trades, smuggled contraband, and hints of threats against several guards. Mercer hadn't been quiet at all. He had been keeping evidence of corruption. As Reed and his team combed through the letters, they realized Mercer had been gathering dirt for months, maybe years. And someone inside the prison had discovered his secret. Meanwhile, rumors began to spread to the prison like wildfire. Inmates whispered about a shadow figure moving to the corridors at night, a man no one could identify, someone who seemed to vanish when looked at directly. Some said Mercer had known him, that he had trusted him. Others claimed it was a ghost. Reed ignored the whispers. Prisons were full of myths. But the timing of Mercer's death, the precision of the act, and the note left behind made it clear. This was human, and it was deliberate. By mid-afternoon, Reed was staring at the security footage from the block. The 7-minute blackout was a mystery, until he noticed a subtle shimmer, a brief glitch at the edge of the frame. Pausing, enhancing, zooming, and then he saw it. A faint reflection on the metal railing. Someone in a guard's uniform, crouched, almost moving through the walls like a shadow. But the face was obscured. Reed's heart pounded. One of the guards? No, Harris would never allow it. But someone else had access. Someone who knew the routines. Someone who had Mercer's schedule memorized. The next lead came from an unlikely source. Mercer's cellmate, a young man named Luis Fernandez. He had been transferred the week before the murder and was visibly shaken. "Johnny!" "He found something," Luis whispered. "Something big. He didn't tell me what. Just, he had to show someone. And then they came for him." Reed leaned in. "Who came for him?" Luis hesitated, glancing nervously toward the corridor. "I don't know. Maybe one of the guards. Maybe someone worse." He He said he trusted the system, but the system isn't clean. Reed knew he was running out of time. Prison deaths often led to cover-ups, lies, and misdirection. The more he dug, the more dangerous it became. And then late that night, a new call came in, a security alert. Cell 56, 2 blocks down, had been broken into. Nothing was stolen, but the locks had been tampered with, and on the wall, scratched deep into the paint, was another message: stop digging. The pattern was emerging. Whoever was behind Mercer's death wasn't just silencing him. They were sending warnings. And Reed now understood something chilling. The killer was always one step ahead. But then came the twist no one saw coming. A forensic report revealed traces of a rare chemical on the note found in Mercer's cell, something only obtainable through the prison's maintenance supply room. That meant the person responsible wasn't just an outsider. They had insider access. They weren't acting randomly. They were calculating, methodical, and possibly still inside the prison right now, waiting for the next move. Reed sat back in his office, staring at the photos of Mercer's cell. He had chased killers before. He had seen corruption, lies, and betrayal. But nothing prepared him for the realization that hit like a punch to the gut. The person who killed Mercer could be watching him, right through the walls, through the corridors he walked every day. And just when he thought he had seen it all, the letters to AS revealed a final bombshell. The last letter, dated 2 days before Mercer's death, contained a single sentence: "If anything happens to me, look at the warden." Reed froze. The warden? The man who swore daily that the prison ran with integrity? Could it really be true? Could the corruption run so deep that the very person in charge had ordered Mercer's death? The chapter closed on a chilling note. Reed returned to the cell, reviewing every angle, every shadow. His flashlight flickered over the concrete wall, and then, tucked in the corner, almost hidden, a small key appeared, attached to a note written in Mercer's familiar jagged scrawl. "They are closer than you think." The detective's blood ran cold. Someone had left this intentionally. Someone wanted him to find it. And in the world of prisons, curiosity could be deadly. As he pocketed the key and stepped out into foggy night, Reed didn't know it yet, but the case would spiral far beyond anything he imagined, into halls of power, into hidden alliances, and into a darkness where no one was safe. But one thing was certain. The truth about Mercer's death was just a beginning. Detective Marcus Reed didn't sleep that night. The key in his pocket weighed heavier than iron, and Mercer's final note echoed in his mind. "They are closer than you think." Whoever killed Mercer wasn't just targeting one inmate. They were sending a message, and now Reed had become part of the message. The next morning, Reed returned to the prison under the guise of reviewing security footage. But his real plan was to confront the warden, Warden Henry Callahan, a man with a reputation for strict discipline and an almost fanatical obsession with protocol. Met him in his office, the blinds casting sharp stripes across his lined face. "Detective Reed," Callahan said, voice calm, almost too calm. "I hear there's concern over cell 42. Reed didn't waste time. We found letters, evidence that Mercer was gathering dirt, and a note pointing at you. I need to know what you know." Callahan's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't flinch. Mercer was a troublemaker, nothing more. "I assure you, any suggestion of my involvement is unfounded." Reed felt the weight of deception pressing down on him. Every word Callahan spoke was measured, rehearsed. But the key in Reed's pocket told a different story. It was the smallest things: a hidden corner of Mercer's cell, a locked maintenance closet. That held the truth. Reed's next step was to follow the paper trail Mercer had left. The letters to AS hinted at contraband operations, but also mentioned a name that didn't appear in any prison records: Thomas Klein, an ex-guard who had mysteriously disappeared from Westchester a year earlier. Some said Klein had been fired for inappropriate behavior. But Mercer's notes suggested he had connections that reached far deeper into the very infrastructure of the prison. Tracking Klein was harder than Reed anticipated. He wasn't in any federal database. No social media. No known address. But a single clue in Mercer's last letter, a partial license plate scrawled in code, led Reed to a rundown storage facility just outside town. It was there that Reed found the first real danger: surveillance cameras, all pointing inward, and a man who seemed to be expecting him. The man was tall, wiry, with eyes that burned with intensity. He didn't introduce himself. "You're poking into things you don't understand," he said, voice low and harsh. Mercer was lucky. "You won't be." Reed's hand hovered over his gun. "Who are you?" The man smirked. "Call me Klein. Thomas Klein." Everything clicked. Mercer had been tracking him. The letters weren't just complaints about guards or corruption. They were warnings, breadcrumbs leading to Klein. But why would Klein kill Mercer? Or had someone else used Klein's network to silence him? Before Reed could ask more, the lights in the storage unit went out. A muffled sound, like a body hitting concrete, echoed through the darkness. Reed's flashlight revealed Klein gone, vanished into the shadows. But on the floor, a single envelope remained. Inside, more coded letters, but this time they contained names, prisoners, guards, even a correctional nurse, all marked with dates and cryptic symbols. The implication was chilling. A list of people marked for silencing if they talked. Back at the prison, Reed confronted his team. He had no idea how deep the network went, but the signs were clear. Mercer's death wasn't an isolated incident. Someone was orchestrating murders from the shadows, and Klein was either the mastermind or a pawn. The danger intensified when a new death occurred, not an inmate, but a guard. Officer Timothy Hales was found in the laundry room, hanging from a maintenance rope. Suicide, the official report claimed, but Reed knew better. The angle was wrong, the marks on Hale's wrist too precise, too surgical. Someone had staged it, and the message was unmistakable. Stop digging or die. Reed dug deeper into Hale's past. The guard had recently been questioned about Mercer's letters, even briefly detained for failing to report contraband. Someone had decided he was a liability. The detective's stomach twisted with fear. If Hales could be silenced so quickly, no one was safe. He returned to Mercer's letters and Klein's storage facility notes, cross-referencing names and dates. A pattern emerged. The murders followed a strict schedule, always on days when the prison was busiest, always when oversight was weakest. It was like a clockwork operation, executed with precision. Then came a revelation that shook Reed to his core. Mercer had also left an audio recording hidden inside a makeshift tape recorder. In it, he spoke of a secret meeting he had overheard between Callahan and Klein before Klein disappeared. The two had been coordinating the elimination of inmates who threatened to expose illegal activities, smuggling, bribery, even unreported violence within the prison. The truth was uglier than Reed imagined. The warden wasn't just negligent. He was orchestrating murders to protect himself and his empire of corruption. Mercer had been trying to collect enough evidence to bring him down, but someone had gotten to him first. As Reed prepared to confront Callahan again, the warden did something unexpected. He called him into a private meeting, calm, almost cordial. "Detective Reed," he said, his fingers steepled, "I hope you understand the stakes here. You're treading into dangerous territory." Mercer was foolish. "And so are you if you continue." Reed stared back. "I'm not stopping. Someone is dead, and I intend to find out why." Callahan's lips curved into a thin, cold smile. "Then I hope you're ready for the consequences." That night, Reed reviewed the envelope from Klein's storage unit. His flashlight flickered over the names again, and he realized a horrifying fact. One name had been crossed off the list in red ink. Someone he knew personally. Someone he trusted. The walls of Westchester Correctional Facility suddenly felt like a trap. Every shadow seemed alive. Every step could be a trigger. Reed was close to uncovering the truth, but someone was always one step ahead, erasing evidence, silencing witnesses, and manipulating the system from within. And then, just when he thought the night couldn't get worse, his phone buzzed. An anonymous message. "You think you're safe? Check the basement. Now." Reed's pulse accelerated. The basement of the prison was rarely accessed, a labyrinth of pipes, storage, and old cells long abandoned. Whoever sent this message wanted him there, wanted him to see something, or wanted him trapped. As he descended into the darkness, flashlight cutting to the stale, damp air, Reed's mind raced with possibilities. Klein could be waiting. Callahan could be orchestrating a trap. And Mercer's death had been the beginning, not the end. At the end of the basement corridor, he found a steel door locked, but not securely. With a careful twist of the key Mercer had left him, the lock clicked open. Reed pushed the door, stepping into the shadows beyond, and what he saw made him freeze. Rows of filing cabinets, names, dates, and photographs, files documenting every inmate, every guard, every transfer, and every secret transaction within the prison, some stretching back over a decade. And at the center of the room, under a single swinging light bulb, was a figure crouched over a desk, scribbling in a notebook. Reed's voice cracked as he called out, "Who's there?" The figure looked up, and Reed's stomach dropped. It was a man in a guard's uniform, but not any guard he recognized. And in his hand, a bloodied pen still dripping. The mastermind in the shadows. Before we reveal the final pieces of this twisted puzzle, remember, if your heart is racing and your skin is crawling, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment, because what comes next will make you question everything you thought you knew about justice. Detective Marcus Reed's flashlight trembled slightly in his hand, illuminating the figure crouched in the basement. The man wore a guard's uniform, but his face was partially hidden under the brim of a cap. A blood-stained pen rested in his fingers, and his notebook was filled with meticulous notes on inmates, guards, and transfers, a secret ledger that detailed every hidden corner of the prison's dark underbelly. "Step away from that desk," Reed said, voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through him. The man slowly rose, calm, deliberate. "Detective Reed," he said, "you really shouldn't be here. You've gone too far." Reed took a careful step forward. "You're Klein's accomplice. You've been running this from the shadows. Tell me, why Mercer? Why Hales? Why the others?" The figure smiled, cold and calculated. Mercer was smart. Too smart. He saw the cracks in the system. He thought he could bring it down. Hales thought he could help. Both got in the way. And now, you're next if you don't leave. Reed's hand instinctively went to his holster. "I don't leave until the truth comes out." The man's calm demeanor faltered for the first time. He gestured to the files spread across the desk. "Look at this. Every transaction, every deal, every threat, all of it. The prison isn't corrupt because of one person. It's an ecosystem, and Mercer wanted to poison the system. He deserved what he got." Reed scanned the files and froze. Photos of Mercer, Hales, even other guards, marked with symbols. Some had check marks, some red X's. Each symbol corresponded to Mercer's predictions about who would survive and who wouldn't. The meticulous planning, the calculated silencing, it was beyond anything Reed had imagined. The tension shattered with a sudden noise, metal scraping against concrete. The figure turned, alert, but before he could react, Reed lunged, pinning him against the desk. The pen clattered to the floor. "You're finished," Reed hissed. "Every death, every threat, it ends tonight." The man smirked, almost enjoying the confrontation. "Detective, you still don't understand. It isn't about me. It's never been just me. Warden Callahan, Klein, Mercer, they're all pieces. The prison runs on fear, on silence. You can catch one, but the system will survive." Reed tightened his grip. "Then I'll expose the system. Every file, every note. The world will know what happens in here." The man's eyes narrowed, realized his control was slipping. Before Reed could react, a sudden crash echoed from the stairs. Callahan appeared, flanked by two guards, his face pale but controlled. "Detective Reed," he said smoothly, "you don't know what you're doing. That man, he's expendable. But exposing this, it destroys everything." Reed's gaze hardened. "He's not expendable. Mercer's death, Hale's death, all of them, that ends now. You're going down." Callahan's calm mask cracked. "You think you can take me down with a single investigation? Do you know how many people owe their loyalty to me? How many deaths I've hidden?" Reed stepped forward, forcing Callahan to take a step back. "It doesn't matter. We have evidence now. Files, letters, recordings. The public will see everything." Callahan's eyes darted to the notebook on the desk, the ledger of secrets. He realized too late that Mercer's plan had survived him. The hidden recording, the letters, the notes, all of it was proof. Reed had pieced together the puzzle. In the chaos, the shadowy figure, Klein's accomplice, made one last attempt. He grabbed a knife from a drawer and lunged. Reed reacted instinctively, sidestepping, and the man fell, pinned by his own momentum. A final, desperate scowl met Reed's eyes before he was restrained by arriving backup. Callahan, realizing his empire was crumbling, tried to make a run for it, but the prison gates had been sealed. No escape, no secrets left. Reed handed over the evidence to federal authorities, ensuring that every file, every recording, every letter would be scrutinized. The aftermath was immediate. Klein's accomplice was charged with multiple counts of murder and conspiracy. Warden Callahan was arrested for corruption, conspiracy to commit murder and obstruction of justice. Mercer, though dead, had exposed a web of deceit that reached far beyond Westchester Correctional Facility. Yet, even in victory, the shadows lingered. Reed couldn't shake the feeling that the system itself, with all its fear and silence, was still alive, ready to swallow anyone who stepped out of line. Weeks later, as Reed reviewed the files one last time, a chilling note caught his eye. Tucked inside Mercer's final letters, "You think the killer is behind bars, but 3 months later, another body will appear, same signature." Reed froze. Somewhere, somehow, Mercer's warning was not just a memory. It was a promise. And as the sun set over the prison, the walls seemed darker than ever, shadows stretching long and cold, as if the secrets inside were watching, waiting, and reminding everyone that in a place like Westchester, no one is truly safe. The story of Mercer's murder, Klein's network, and Callahan's corruption had been revealed, but the echoes of their crimes will haunt the prison and those who uncovered the truth forever. And somewhere in the fog of the coming months, Reed knew the next chapter of horror was already writing itself.